What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Event Masters. This is the show where every single week we take you through a journey from event producer to event master. This week is literally no different. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the show, Event Masters. You need to listen to this if you want to throw bigger and better events. Learn how to monetize and land bigger racks. Yeah, this is where you can learn how to do that. Event Masters.
Welcome to another episode of Event Masters. I do believe, as long as I can count, which is no promises, this is episode 21. And as you guys see in the title, or as you guys listen to over here on the podcast, today's show is all about effective communication. I think we can all agree communication is probably the downfall of this entire planet. With anything that ever goes wrong, it's usually stemmed back to communication. And today we're going to dive deep into what it means to effectively communicate with your attendees. But before we do so, I got a couple things I got to get off my chest. So one is the usual housekeeping, right? The whole make sure you like, subscribe, follow us, download us on all social medias at EventMASTERS Show. And then also the audio viewers over there, the downloading the Spotify and the Apple podcast. That's growing every single day. Excited for that. And that's kind of what I want to touch on and segue into real quick and get off my chest, as they say. Because the Event Masters has been, for the first 21 episodes, a show. And a podcast that obviously you guys know me and Patrick for. I wanted to make sure you guys are under or have the right idea of what we are going forward. So for those of you who were at Event Next, you heard about the big announcement around Event Masters that's going to become the mastermind. That's exclusive, high-level, elite event professional type mastermind where we'll grow our businesses, our event skill sets, our networks all together. But the idea of Event Masters is evolving from just a show, from just a podcast. And I wanted to make sure you guys are fully aware of that. You'll see all of this coming out. The story is going to be told over the lifetime of this show, and using the show as a vehicle to vehicle to something bigger, right? The Event Masters concept was not built for like, hey, let's just create a show. Patrick and I didn't get together and like, yo, man, we just want to do a show. Like, we just want to talk every single Friday because that's what we like to do. It's about this show, the groups that you're about to see, and some of the announcements you'll see on the group side, the events that we have coming out. The first one I'm excited about, and then of course the mastermind. These are all vehicles for something bigger, and it's I know for me personally, it's this is my vehicle over a long time to elevate this industry. It's just, how can I elevate this industry from an event skill set perspective, elevate your business, elevate your network as a whole, and just honestly elevate this whole industry, the standards that we all operate by. And like, Event Masters is just our concept of, you know, what it means to become like an event master, right? What it means to become a top level event professional, and how you carry yourself and how you operate, and ways to live by. It's not just a show, it's not just a mastermind, it's really a way of operation. And a mindset shift that you guys will hear us talk about, and the story, like I said, will be told over the time. So just had to get that off of my chest for the beginning of this show before we get into communication and effective communication. I was communicating what to expect from Event Masters going forward. We're taking this show and growing it into so much bigger, more than just the show and the podcast. The show and the podcast are going to be like a percentage of the overall idea and concept in the community that we're trying to build. So as course, speaking of community, guys, make sure if you want me to answer any questions, I have my phone live. I've already got a couple in, but if you want to ask us questions, make sure you're asking us and shooting us a text at Event Masters. Text Event Masters to 407-214-5335. And I will answer your questions if you have any on effective event communication. All right, guys, so let's go ahead. I'll get off my soapbox talking about how excited I am about Event Masters projects, and let's jump in today. So, effective event communication. Guys, this is like the downfall of 80% of you. I see it. I see it every single day at not Event Masters. I see it every single day at ViewStub and outside of ViewStub and past events. This is ineffective communication is not a new thing in events and from organizers. And I don't really have an answer as to why, because we all know communication is the downfall to a lot of things, right? Friendships, relationships, marriages. right? Wars are often fought over just miscommunication. So miscommunication is a big thing because what it does for your events and your attendees is the communication cycle you put your attendees through does affect the overall outcome of the experience. If they are coming up to event day and confused and don't know where to park and don't know where the lines are, or don't know where to get food or anything, if they don't know things, they're going to start on event day going all crazy, confused. It's going to diminish their experience where they could be at other things, right? Because you, it's not their fault. It's you didn't set up proper expectations. So today we're going to do that, and we're going to break it down into 3 parts because there's 3 buckets all of your communication falls in when you're talking about events and attendees and things like that. Because today's show is not about communication to people pre-attendee, right? That's called marketing. And we've done plenty of shows on that. We're going to continue to. But today's show is me breaking down the communication cycle of once you become an attendee and a ticket buyer, and the journey you go through and how I communicate with you. But not only that, how you communicate with me until event day. And then on event day, how do I communicate with you and vice versa? How do you get to me if you need be? And then after the event, right? How do I communicate with you and vice versa? How do you communicate with me? 3 of those buckets all have different outcomes and needs of why you need to communicate. So let's break this down, right? So pre-event communication starts the second they register or purchase. We can all agree there, right? The pre-event communication starts the second they register or purchase a ticket to your event. And so right there, I like to automatically just from there, just say straight up, thank you for purchasing your ticket. It's like they're purchasing tickets like weeks or months in advance, right? I don't need to tell them much more than that, just saying, hey, thank you. Make sure you're signed up for our different communication channels, which we'll get into, right? If you want to learn about reminders and things like that. But really just once they register, it's just about a thank you. And then they get sent into the different ways that you communicate with them. And that's what I want to talk about today, because I don't think a lot of you guys are using all of the effective channels for your pre-event, during event, and post-event communication. So pre-event, guys, like let's get the normal one out of the way. Email, like we get it. Email is the one that everyone goes to, and they're like, yeah, but I sent an email, right? So obviously email, but folks like me, guys, I get 5,000 emails a day. Like, well, okay, this is a little exaggerated. I'm not that cool, but you guys know what I mean, right? A lot of things are going in and out of my emails, especially if it's like QR codes or like access codes and things like that, or other emails or other channels. Like I'm 28 years old. I'd rather have text, right? So when I oftentimes have a communication channel, I often look at the audience of my event, right? I have a client. Look at this. I have a client they're a nonprofit. Their average attendee is 57. We've done the math. 57. You guys, I bet you I'm not using text with them. I'm using email, okay, and forum boards, to be honest. I'm not even kidding. That's literally, I know where they spend their time. It's forum boards. But what I'm saying there is you got to understand and identify who your audience is and who your attendees are to create the effective communication channels. So email, text, those are both really good ones. For those of you who came to EventMASTERS, when we started sending out those engagement emails a couple weeks leading up to the event, you guys know we have our text community right here, right? That text community is our overall shell of ViewStub and everything we do, right? We have EventMASTERS there, we have ViewStub, we had Event Next, right? I had you guys just text in and say, hey, text Event Next to 407-214-5335, and you'll get opted in to get updates and reminders about Event Next. And we had a bunch of you, right? Because you knew you wouldn't check your email. You knew we would send in your emails, and you just happened to click on the one that day, and we're like, oh wait, I'm never going to go to this again. Let me opt in for where I'm actually going to listen to your communication. And then we used all of these channels to educate and engage. We also threw in like our groups. Right, we have our ViewStub group. So groups are really interesting, guys. Like I don't think enough people are leveraging this concept of a group or a community platform like Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, all of those. Those are the normal ones. But then you can throw in the Discords, the Slacks, what's the other ones? The Telegram is the other one I was remembering. So those are groups where you can be like, hey, you're now an attendee. Join this group for the most up-to-date communications or ideas or announcements and reminders, and join this group. But this idea of groups, doesn't matter if it's a Facebook group, doesn't matter if it's a Slack group, doesn't matter if it's a Discord group, it's a collective group of everyone who's in attendance. And now what this does, guys, is a little bit something something that answers another or solves another problem when you leverage the group mentality of communication in your strategy. Because one question we get asked all the time is like, how do we create more networking opportunities, right? Everyone's trying to slam networking into the day of the event, right? They're like, everyone thinks that effective networking happens in that hour time slot you give me at your conference. Like, no. No. So the group concept allows people pre-event, during event, and post-event to be able to network and connect with folks in that event on their own time, right? Because and over time, they can actually get to meet more people, right? Because they're not slammed together in an hour. So groups are another amazing way to create as a distribution channel for you and your events because of the overall community aspect of it already. Events are communities. You bring them into another community and give them the opportunity to not only get those reminders and announcements and education and engagement pre-event, but it allows them to engage and network and potentially collaborate with everyone that's going to the event, and give them and turn your networking into a much more, actual useful tool that everyone is having problems with in virtual events. The idea of virtual networking is not 5 minutes in a one-on-one channel. It's like, can I give you 5 weeks in a Facebook group and commenting and engaging and actually building relationships? See where I'm going with that? So groups, email, text. Those are 3 great ones that you can use to create a communication channel. And when you guys track back to why we are communicating pre-event, there's 2 reasons: to educate and engage, right? You're trying to create that engagement. Your emails and text and group messages are like, hey, you're trying to get them to engage, respond back, show interest in the event, stay top of mind. Also, if there's ways to leverage those engagement emails of like, hey, share this out, we'll give you this, right? You saw that at Event Next. All I did was ask you guys to share a graphic, right? If you share a graphic and tag view stuff, I'll upgrade you to VIP right now, right? Bunch of you did it. And all I did that for was, one, marketing, right? Marketing hack, but also the engagement. I just wanted you guys to engage in the event, like go an extra step above just registering, but actually like go post about our event and continue that engagement. Engagement doesn't have to happen just at the event, people. So another one, engagement and education. So I'm using all of these different outlets, the text, the groups, the socials, to also educate, right? Because I don't want to leave my attendees in the dark, right? Them not knowing what to do will lead to confusion, right? Because only you and your team know what actually is going on at the event until you tell other people, right? No one has any idea what your schedule is. They don't know where to come and park if you're throwing an outdoor concert. They don't know where to go indoors if you're doing it in a hotel. You got to tell them the map because your room's all the way in the way back, right? They don't know what the food is, so that they can't tell you or communicate that, oh, I have these allergies. They don't know anything. And if you don't know anything, it's going to lead to more confusion, and more confusion hinders the experience factor of your event, right? Pre-event, they haven't even gotten to the event and they've already had a crappy time. So I want to talk about a couple others, because you have to, as I said, you have to give them channels to communicate with you as well. So we open up our group, we open up the text. Our text community is built in a way that it's not just one-sided, right? So I specifically picked a platform that allows me to do 2-way texting, right? So that when you text into the community, or our text community, it's not about just, hey, we're going to only send you reminders and it's some 5-digit phone number. It's actually, you can text us in too. It gives you that outlet to go, hey, I didn't see the schedule, where is it? Boom, send you a screenshot. Simple, right? And so we also have things like web chats, right? Web chats are another one that you can put a little widget on your website. If you guys are using white label, hello, right? That's why we did it. Because you can just put a little chat widget that becomes your support widget. Another version of this is how we used Hio. There was a channel on Hio that allowed you to communicate with us any support needs during the event. But during the event and things like that, support chat, pre-event though too, like, hey, make sure if you have any questions, comments, concerns, like hit us up in our support chat. One of our members of our team will get you to where you need to go, right? If you can't find your QR code, if you can't find your access code, go to the support chat and we'll get you taken care of, right? So chat widgets are another really good one. And then the last one I want to touch on before we move on to during event communication is this whole idea of apps and push notifications and things like that. Apps are something that a lot of big events leverage for a reason. It does put you right onto their phone. It does allow you to have that messaging or chat-like situation inside of the app for networking and that engagement factor pre-event. There's apps out there that have, of course, most of them have push notifications, so it'll pop up right on their phone that said, hey, event starts in 1 hour. Hey, click this button for the schedule, right? So apps are a really good one. I think it's a little bit more advanced than, maybe 50% of this audience needs at any given time. But I am talking about it because I know some certain things that are happening over here that maybe you guys like in that department, and I won't talk about it anymore. But anyways, let's move on. I'm going to get in trouble for even saying that. Anyways, you guys watch this show. Something big's coming. Anyways, so we talked about it, man. All of these different, when you're in pre-event, it's about education and engagement, and you're using all of these different outlets and communication channels like email, right? Basic. Social media platforms, like you post, like make an actual post from your Facebook that said, hey, make sure you're going here. Make sure you got their access codes. Hey, make sure you do this, this, and this. Using groups, Facebook, LinkedIn, Discord, Telegram. Other ones like, I always forget the other one. Anyway, Slack, that's what I was talking about. And then support chat widgets on your website are a really good and interesting one. And then also the idea of apps. And all of these can then in turn be used during the event where the communication outcome is meant to really be reminders and alerts about the event. You're not trying to engage anybody at that point. Really, you can, and there's ways to do it, and I'll talk about that. But once again, you're really there to make sure that, hey, you send them a text at 12, and you could schedule all this. Like if you guys were at Event Next, you saw all my emails that came out throughout the day. Hey, make sure Kevin Harrington's about to come up. I shot an email for folks who weren't there. I shot an email to everybody at 12. I said, Kevin Harrington's coming up. Click this to join in, right? I did that for almost every speaker. Same thing with my text, just to make sure I was shooting out reminders to my audience, because I know most people maybe didn't come or were waiting for maybe Kevin or Matt Haynes to speak, or they were waiting for that session by Jen, right? So I was strategically picked out a couple sessions and sent text blasts and reminders to say, hey, Mike Calhoun's about to pop up to talk about how to run the next level networking and mastermind group and throw events for them. Shoot you a text and reminder, and same thing for support chats and apps. That's the whole idea of the push notification, right? This is why we're contemplating looking at push notifications for ViewStub, right? Because of the idea of being able to shoot out an announcement or a reminder, or hey, this is happening over here, right? You gotta make sure that to keep them engaged and communicating with them throughout the day. You can't have them rely on, hey, the schedule. I gave them a schedule. No, like you have to. If it's 2:00, remind them that the 2:00 sessions are starting, or little pop-ups and little emails and texts and social blasts that say, hey, everyone that's attending, if you guys see this post, make sure you share it and blah 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 blah, right? The text campaigns that I just said, the groups are another really good one, because the groups allow. The reason I love groups, to be honest, guys, is when I'm mid-event, this allows me, the group and the support chat and the email are my 3 communication channels for you to communicate with me, right? You communicate with me, meaning you have a problem, issue, question, comment, or concern, and you want to get to me. So I would then tell you guys to use my group, my email, or the support chat we have on our site. That's how you communicate with us. And so we obviously email. The groups, though, the reason I love groups over email and support chat, groups are run by the people in the group, not just the founders or the leaders of the group, right? So if someone comes into your Facebook group and they're experiencing questions, if they come in and be like, hey, does anybody know where the venue is once you get on the site, right? Prime example, I have an event going on in Ohio the last 3 days. I didn't go out there, right? But we had someone, and I sent everyone a map. We won't even talk about how many logistics I threw into this to make sure people were understanding. We had maps that drawn with arrows, and I did my job, but there's always going to be one, take a note there, it's always going to be 1 or 2 people who don't listen to anything. But anyways, what he did was post in the Facebook group we made for the event. And I was busy, like I was working, right? The client, they were working, they were running the event when the one was talking during the thing. But guess what? I didn't answer and they didn't have to answer. 10 people at the event answered and said, hey, just here's the map, here's this, here's this. That's why I like groups, because it allows the communication chain to be maybe take off your shoulders. See what I'm saying with that? So that's why I like groups. And then let's move on to post-event, because post-event I think is where most people drop the ball, because no matter the outcome of your event, usually you're trying to monetize, and if you're doing in the conference space or like we're doing at Event Next or whatever, like the whole idea after the event is over, and the idea of communication is based around really just feedback and longevity. So what I mean by that is, as soon as the event's over, for those of you who were at Event Next, right? or everybody that went to Event Next got an email from us within the next day or so asking about feedback, asking us to fill out a form, right? Because after event communication is about getting communication in about everything that just transpired so that you can do better next time. And then so the second part of that is the longevity, right? What is that? What do I mean by that is I like to make sure my event doesn't just live for 3 days. Okay, so if I do a 1-day event, a 2-day event, a 3-day event, doesn't matter what it is, right? It does not matter what it is. I want to make sure that event, it could be a 2-hour event. I want to make sure that event lives on as long as humanly possible, right? To extend that mental real estate. So what you guys are going through right now, if you ever I'm always going to track back to a practical example, just know me. So imagine what you guys are going through with Event Next, right? I'll track back to it. When you went to Event Next, after that, you got all the feedback and the engagement. Announcement saying, hey, can you fill out this form? Hey, did you see this announcement? Hey, did you use your promo code EventNext to get your 6 months free? Did you get all of this? Did you make sure you heard all of the announcements we made? Hey, did you see that we launched the studio? Right? So the first part of communication once an event is over is about feedback. Like, you have to show that attendee that you care about the experience that you just provided them. So that immediately after event's over, I'm communicating about how to get as much feedback and data back about how I did. Right? How did I do? What's up? What can I do? What did I do? What did I do great? Boost my ego. What did I do bad? You're not going to hurt my feelings, right? Because I need that so that I can continue to grow the event better next year. But then that longevity scale starts. I'm still trying to curate and keep Event Next and my other events and clients' events and so on and so forth top of mind. Top of mind. I got to keep you top of mind for as long as possible. So I'm drawing out and creating groups and like, hey, 2 weeks later, did you see how we dropped the behind the scenes videos, right? That's one of our communication. We wanted to keep the event around and alive for as long as possible, right? So that's why, folks ask me all the time, like, why I don't drop recap videos on the day of the event or within a day. Because I want you to go a little bit. I almost want you to kind of start like when I start to drop a recap video, I want you to start to forget. I want the thought of Event Next try to flutter out of your mind, and then boom, 2 weeks later I hit you with a recap video where the excitement brings it back up to the surface. See where we're going with that? So the idea of after event communication, as I said, is to gather feedback and to create longevity for your event, and then also start promoting the next event, right? But after, it's all about, can you keep them inside of your community? And that's a whole nother conversation about community development and what that means to keep an event attendees from one event to another. But it does start with this community aspect, and if you guys want the nitty gritty, it's why we have things like EventMASTERS and things like that to keep it going and keep this concept of value adds and things like that throughout the year, right? So we're going to continue to talk about Event Next until next year, but it's always going to be top of mind. We're going to constantly make sure that the Event Next brand is out there. So our communication channel between events is our other platforms like this, like EventMASTERS. So let's recap, because today's episode has been really cool. Hopefully it's not been too crazy, not too boring, not too anything. Hopefully you guys aren't missing Patrick too much. Like, I'm sure that I know that he's cooler than me, but hopefully today's been really good. So let's recap. Okay. Before you start doing any communication with your attendees and understanding that, you got to understand the who, right? You got to understand who you're talking to so that you can create and choose the correct communication channel, right? A 77-year-old's not going to want to listen to your ringless voicemails or your Discord account, right? Or log in and create a Discord account. So what I mean by that is understanding who you're talking to so that you can create the channels of communication. So my favorites are as follows in no particular order: email, our social media platforms, groups, right? Groups like Facebook, the one we do here, Discord, Slack, LinkedIn, Telegram, anything where I can create a community of communication that has channels like Slack does is really great. That's why I think I love Slack for pre-events and things like that. Facebook groups are another really good one. And then they also allow group communication. So maybe, because it's a group, it allows them access to networking, but also if people have questions, comments, concerns, they go to the group and it gets answered by the collective, not just has to rely on me to answer. So keep it going to text. Text is by far probably one of my favorites so far, to be honest. And then ringless voicemail is another one. I didn't talk about it a lot, but ringless voicemail, for those of you who don't know, is just straight up, I can send, for lack of a better word, an MP3 right to your voicemail. It skips the whole ringing process or anything. It just straight up sends it to you and says, hey, My name's Dylan. I wanted to make sure you guys are hopping over to main stage to see Kevin Harrington, who's starting in 10 minutes. Boom. That's it. So you pick up your phone, you look at your phone, it says new voicemail. Almost everybody listens to their voicemails. That's why I love RVM. I've used RVM in a lot of different events. You'll probably see us use it more and more here at ViewSub for our events. But nonetheless, ringless voicemails are really another good one because you can create them and schedule them out. I said groups, support widgets or support chats on your website. So because things like our white label, you embed it on the client, on your own website, you get your own chat widget. They go hand in hand, really good there. And then an advanced version of this is the whole mobile app concept, and whether or not it's white labeled or not doesn't matter. The idea of an app to create something that they have to download on their phone, but then becomes that communication hub and channel, as well as during the event it has those cool features that go right to your phone, like push notifications and so on and so forth. So all of those different communication channels are then in turn used for the 3 buckets of your event, which is pre-event, during event, and post-event. Pre-event, you're there to educate and engage. During an event, you're there to really educate, and about 80% educate, 20% engage. Like, hey, make sure, during an event, and ideas like if you want to communicate and get some like sponsor love or something, or like some boosting sales, like, hey, make sure you're going over to check out the beer vendors and things like that. For everyone who runs over there now, it's a 10% discount, right? That's how I'm communicating during the event. And then post-event is all about feedback and longevity. Feedback, what can I do better? Longevity is how long can I make that 1 day, 2 day, 3 day event, 1 hour event, 3 hour event live as long as humanly possible. So with that being said, guys, that is all I got for you today in this episode. It's a little longer than I wanted to be, but sometimes I ramble. So anyways, I'm going to wrap this up with the usual, guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow us on all social medias. Podcast is growing every single day. Make sure you're downloading and reviewing that bad boy on Spotify, soon to be Amazon and Apple Podcasts. Make sure you're texting us EventMASTERS to 407-214-5335. Right, we got a lot of things cool there. You'll start seeing some actual benefits there to joining the community here soon. Codes, discount codes to the events that we have, free seats at the mastermind, like all of that. Like that, we're going like the text community as it rolls across here is where you're going to get those perks. So. With that being said, guys, I'm going to run. Hope you guys are having another good day. This is EventMASTERS. Let us know, as you guys engage and listen to this episodes and shows and so on and so forth, like what you guys want to hear. The show is every single week. There's so many topics we picked this one out of random for today. There wasn't anything that prompted it, right? So keep letting us in and keep giving us feedback on what you want to hear and listen, who you want to see. If you have guest ideas, by all means, and then keep an eye out for everything we have coming at EventMASTERS. As I alluded to in the beginning, this is not just a show anymore. It's really a movement. It's really an idea. It's really a belief. It's a concept, and it's a way of life and a way of living and a way of operating in this event industry. Not just a show, not just a logo, not just an event, not just a mastermind. So much bigger than that, and I'm so excited to tell that story. So with that being said, you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.